basically happened as a result of the no ordinary disruptions we've been through is that the foundation of the American middle class has completely shrunk almost to zero. What was the foundation of the American middle class? By the way, the European middle class and the Asian middle class. It was something called a high-wage, middle-skilled job. High wages, but middle-skilled. So my uncle in the early 1960s was the loan officer at the Farmers and Mechanics Bank in Minneapolis, and he only had a high school degree. Now, is there any loan officer at any bank anywhere, okay, that only has a high school degree today? No. So he had a high-wage, he had middle skills, but he actually had a high-wage job. Well, that actually was the foundation of the middle class. And everything we need to be thinking about today, I believe, if you're running for president, is how you return the high-wage. It doesn't have to be middle-skilled. It's going to actually be higher skilled just by the nature of things. But because basically what happens when the high-wage, middle-skilled job disappeared, we now have high-wage, high-skilled jobs. We have low-wage, low-skilled jobs. As your research has shown, those are growing, actually. But how do we get more people into the high-wage, high-skill, band of jobs? That, I think, is the central economic and political question for society if you want to have a stable middle class.
No, I couldn't agree more. And in fact, in some ways, we're already there. That problem already exists, right? Because think about the conversations the last 5 or so years about income inequality. Some of the work we've done highlights, of course, income inequality is there, and it's actually gotten worse. But the really striking thing is the wage stagnation that we've seen.
For decades.
For decades. Yeah. And in fact, in some ways, arguably, it could be at the root of some of the angst and concerns that society has. And then you layer on top of that the trends we're talking about, the impact of technology and so forth. So one of the things that we don't worry about, at least not as much, on this technology jobs question, is this issue about, will there be enough jobs? I think, all the scenarios and all the work we've done and other economists have begun to do suggest there will be enough jobs, at least in the next couple of decades. Now, of course, you should always worry about that because things could change and so forth. But what will absolutely be real challenges are probably a few key things. One is this question about how occupations are going to shift, because we know that as technology starts to automate some work and some activities, some occupations are going to decline. But others are going to rise. And to your example about just what's happened to the middle class, many of the occupations that are going to decline have had middle wage incomes at middle wage skills, and those are going to decline. Yeah. The ones that are growing, that will grow, don't look like there will be high income earning jobs. So as that plays out between the jobs lost and the jobs gained, even though there'll be enough work, then you worry about 3 big transitions. And I'm going to test these on you to see what you think, whether we're ready to deal with this. One is how we deal with the occupational shifts. People moving from one occupation to another, often one place to another. That's a big challenge. The scale of that is quite substantial. The second question are what you might call skill shifts. In some cases, the skills needed are going to be much higher. In some cases, they're just different. So how do people navigate the skill shift, which is quite substantial? And then the third one is one you're alluding to, which is the income wage question, which is, will people be able to earn enough? And those are pretty big challenges, even in a world where there's enough work.
But what you described, the world you described, there's one thing we know for sure, that your healthcare, your pension, and your learning, which has to be the newest entitlement program, basically, the ability to be a lifelong learner, all 3 of those have to become ubiquitous and mobile. So that if I'm running for office, I start there. That's how do I make your pension, your healthcare affordable, and your learning mobile and easily accessible for your life. I think those are the 3 central questions for lifting people back into the middle class. So that's a broad economic answer. That's at the national level. At the local level, I think there's a community answer. And that's how communities come together and build what I call complex adaptive coalitions, where business, labor, philanthropists, educators, social entrepreneurs, and local government all network together to build a coalition to entice the companies, to inspire startups, to create those jobs. Today, you need 3 people starting jobs for 7. You need 8 people starting jobs for 30. You need 2 starting jobs, for 20. That's where we're going to get those 25,000 jobs.